Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something, well, truly mind-bending. The idea of the creator God, Allah, existing entirely outside of time and space as we know them.
It's a profound concept, definitely. And it challenges our basic intuition about reality.
Absolutely. Our whole lives are lived in sequence, right?
Yeah.
Before and after. So our mission today is to really unpack this. We've got theological sources, philosophical arguments, even insights from science. We'll see how they tackle this core idea of Tawhid, God's absolute oneness and transcendence.
And it's important to frame it, I think, not just as a theological point, but as an intellectual puzzle. It's something that really demands looking at from multiple angles.
Okay, so let's dive in. Part one, how can anything exist without time or space? Where do we even start thinking about that?
Well, the foundational principle, theologically speaking, is that time and space themselves are khalq. They're created thing.
Created. Yeah.
So the creator, by definition, can't be bound by the rules of the very thing he created if God were, in space or on the timeline.
Then he'd be part of the creation, not the source of it.
Exactly. That would make him contingent, dependent, which contradicts the idea of an ultimate creator. This ties directly into the concept of tanzih.
Tanzih, absolute transcendence.
Yes, and you see this reflected in the language of the Quran itself. Surah Al-Hadid describes Allah as Awwal, the first.
Meaning before any beginning.
Right, and Al-Akhir, the last.
After any end.
So existing before the start and after the finish means existing outside that whole sequence, timeless.
It's still so hard to visualize, though. Our brains aren't wired for it. Analogies must come in handy here.
They do. They help bridge that gap. The author in the book analogy is probably one of the most useful.
Okay, how does that work?
So imagine you, the listener, are like a character in a novel. Let's call this character Zaman, living inside, say, a 30-chapter book.
Okay, I'm Zaman, stuck in the plot.
Right. You experience things linearly. Chapter 1 happens, then Chapter 2. You can't jump ahead to Chapter 30.
Yep.
The past is fixed, the future unknown to you.
Makes sense.
But the author?
Right.
The author isn't bound by the pages. The author conceived the entire story.
So the author sees the beginning, the climax, the end, all at once.
Precisely. For the author, the whole narrative exists simultaneously. It's a single realization. The author isn't experiencing time with the characters.
So when Zaman asks what happens next, the author knows. It's already there.
Exactly. It illustrates that fundamental difference in perspective, that category difference. And this isn't just theology. Philosophy gets here too.
Right, the philosophical arguments, like the Kalam cosmological argument.
Yes, famously developed by thinkers like Al-Ghazali. It's a rigorous line of reasoning.
Walk us through the basics of that again.
Okay. Basically, it starts with the observation. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. Pretty intuitive, right?
Yeah, things don't just pop into existence from nothing.
And so the argument goes, the universe, and that includes time and space itself, began to exist. We see that from cosmology, for instance.
Okay, the Big Bang.
Right. Therefore, the universe must have a cause. But this cause can't be like other causes. It has to be, different.
How so?
It must be uncaused. Because if it had a cause, then that would need a cause, and you get an infinite regress, which means nothing would ever have started.
An endless chain backwards, meaning no beginning.
Exactly. So you logically need a first cause that didn't begin, that doesn't need a prior cause. And if it didn't begin, it must be timeless.
And if it created space, it must be spaceless.
Precisely. That's the necessary existent, the wajib al-wujud, something that exists by its own nature, not dependent on anything else.
But couldn't the universe itself just be eternal? Didn't some argue that to avoid the first cause?
That was certainly debated. But the evidence points towards a beginning, and even if you posit an eternally oscillating universe or something, you still grapple with why there's anything rather than nothing. The Kalam argument points to the necessity of a foundational, uncaused reality.
Okay, so this uncaused, timeless, spaceless existence, how is it described? Is it just infinite time?
No, and that's a key distinction scholars like Ibn Sina made. It's not Zam, the sequential time we experience stretched out forever. It's Sarmad.
Sarmad.
Absolute, timeless eternity. Think of it as a state of pure, unchanging now. There's no past accumulating, no future unfolding. It just is.
Wow. So no duration at all, just being.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
the author holding the entire book concept at once, asking where or when Allah exists from this perspective is like asking the author what page are you on. It's a kind
A
of,
category error. You're using the wrong tools to measure.
you got it. Trying to apply the rules of the created world back onto the creator.
It's fascinating how this philosophical and theological reasoning seems to bump up against modern science in interesting ways.
It really does, particularly cosmology.
So let's move to part two. How does science handle this boundary, this idea of before time?
Well, Einstein's general relativity is key here. It showed us that space and time aren't separate things, but a unified fabric, space-time.
Right, woven together.
And this fabric, including time itself, seems to have originated at the Big Bang singularity, around 13.8 billion years ago.
The beginning point for our universe, as far as physics can see.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really relevant. If you ask a physicist what happened before the Big Bang,
They'll say the question doesn't make sense.
pretty much, because the word before implies time exists. But time, according to the model, began at the singularity. Physics kind of breaks down there. There's no physical before if there's no time.
So science itself suggests that whatever caused the Big Bang couldn't have been an event within time.
Correct. It strongly suggests the need for a cause that transcends space-time. Something pre-existing, the very fabric of reality as we know it.
Which fits perfectly with the idea of Sarmad, that timeless state.
It does. And this also connects neatly with the theological concept of divine omniscience. If the creator exists outside of sequential time.
Then past, present, and future are all simultaneous from that perspective.
Exactly. It's like seeing the entire movie at once, not frame by frame. This resonates with some more theoretical ideas in physics too, like Julian Barber's concept of a timeless physics, or the block universe idea, where all moments exist concurrently, in a way. Right. And the Quran itself speaks to this. There's that verse, 57.22, mentioning that everything is recorded in a register before it even happens.
That idea of a divine decree encompassing all events, it implies seeing the whole timeline.
Indeed. And then you have the fine-tuning argument related to the anthropic principle.
The idea that the universe is constant seemed perfectly set up for life.
Precisely. The strength of gravity, the charge of an electron, if they were even slightly different, life as we know it, maybe even stars and planets, couldn't exist.
It looks designed.
The argument is that this incredible precision points towards a purposeful design by a transcendent intelligence, acting before or outside the system to set those initial conditions just right.
Okay, the logic seems to hold from theology, philosophy, and even get some reinforcement from science's limits. So let's shift gears a bit for part three. Why is this concept still so difficult, so almost frustrating for us?
That's the human element. It's what I call a cognitive clash.
Meaning our brains just aren't built for it.
Pretty much. We evolved to survive in a 3D world with linear time. Cause and effect, sequence. That's how we navigate, how we plan, how we understand everything.
So trying to picture timelessness or spacelessness is like
trying to imagine a new color you've never seen. Our conceptual toolkit just doesn't have the right instruments. We instinctively try to map it onto things we do know, like picturing God sitting somewhere.
which falls back into the category error, applying spatial concepts.
Exactly. And then there's the causality trap.
We just can't help asking what caused God.
It's so deeply ingrained. Everything needs a cause, so we naturally, almost automatically, apply that rule back to the first cause itself.
Even though logically the first cause must be uncaused.
Right. It's a logical misstep born from our everyday experience. And there's a psychological layer, too.
You mentioned terror management theory, TMT.
Yes. Psychologists suggest that our underlying awareness of our own mortality, our finitude, the fact that our time is limited, creates a kind of existential terror.
The fear of non-existence.
Right. And TMT proposes that we seek out things that feel permanent, eternal, unchanging to buffer against that fear. An eternal, timeless creator provides the ultimate anchor against that terror.
That makes a lot of sense for believers, but what about non-believers? Why does this specific idea, the timeless, spaceless creator, still hold such fascination or become such a point of argument?
Well, several reasons. First, they have to engage with the claim on logical grounds. They might argue to exist means to be somewhere, sometime. They're challenging that category difference head-on.
Testing the coherence of the idea itself.
Exactly. Second, they still have to confront the first cause problem themselves. What is the ultimate origin? If not a timeless creator, then what?
They need an alternative explanation. Multiverse. Brute fact.
Right. And proposing alternatives like the universe just being a brute fact that exists without explanation, or invoking infinite multiverses, still means they're engaging with the same fundamental question that leads others to posit a necessary timeless existence. They're in the same ballpark, philosophically.
And maybe there's a universal human search for meaning involved, too.
Absolutely. Even secular philosophies like existentialism grapple with finding meaning in a finite existence without an inherent eternal purpose. The tension between the finite and the infinite, the temporal and the potentially eternal, seems to be a core human preoccupation, regardless of belief.
So, okay, we've explored the logic, the science, the psychology behind why it's hard. Let's get to part 4. Why does grasping this abstract idea actually matter? What's the practical impact?
The so what question. Understanding transcendence isn't just an intellectual exercise. It can be genuinely transformative.
How so?
On a personal level, truly internalizing your own finitude compared to an infinite, timeless creator fosters tawadu.
Deep humility.
Humility, seeing your own scale in the grand scheme. Exactly. It helps dissolve that ego-driven anxiety, that feeling that you have to control everything on your timeline. You realize how limited your perspective and control really are.
And that connects to handling suffering, doesn't it?
Immensely. If you view God as being in time with us, then suffering can seem random, chaotic, maybe even showing God as powerless or uncaring.
Like he's just reacting along with us.
Right. But if God is outside time, sovereign, seeing the entire tapestry, past, present, future, simultaneously.
Then even suffering can be seen as part of a larger divine plan we can't fully comprehend from down here.
Precisely. It doesn't necessarily make the pain go away, but it imbues it with potential meaning. It fosters tawakkul, that deep trust and reliance on God, knowing that nothing is truly meaningless in His eternal perspective.
It changes your whole orientation toward this life.
It does. This life becomes less about maximizing temporary pleasure, less of a final destination, and more like, well, the sources often use the analogy of a field.
A field.
Yeah, a place where you plant deeds, where your actions have consequences, sowing seeds for an eternal harvest in the Okhera, the hereafter. It shifts the focus from the temporary to the eternal.
There's that beautiful paradox, too, isn't there? The completely transcendent, timeless king who is also intimately near.
That's central. The transcendence, the tanzi, gives God the power to create, to sustain, to save. But He isn't only distant. The Quran says He's closer to man than His jugular vein.
So immanence provides the love, the connection, the care.
Exactly. It's that perfect balance. The power of transcendence coupled with the intimacy of immanence. One without the other would be incomplete.
And is there a simple, everyday way this understanding shows up? A concrete practice?
I think the most common and profound one is the phrase, inshallah.
God willing.
Yes. When you say, I'll do this tomorrow, inshallah, it's not just a cultural tenet. It's meant to be a conscious, humble acknowledgement.
An acknowledgement that your plans are just plans, subject to a will that operates outside your timeline.
Exactly. You're submitting your limited, time-bound intentions to the one who isn't bound by time at all. It brings this huge philosophical concept right down into your daily actions and mindset.
So wrapping up this deep dive, we've covered the theological necessity of Tanzi and Sarmad, the philosophical arguments for a necessary existence, how science points to limits suggesting transcendence, and why this whole question fascinates and frustrates the human mind.
Yeah, it's a journey across different domains of thought, and maybe the final thought is this. The question itself, how can existence be outside time and space, is incredibly valuable. It's what philosophers call an aporia, a puzzle that pushes the limits of our thinking.
It doesn't have an easy answer we can fully grasp.
No, and maybe understanding this concept isn't about solving the mystery of the divine in a final way. It's more about allowing the question to expand you, the solver. It invites a sense of perpetual wonder.
Shifting how you see yourself.
Right, moving from feeling like just a finite, isolated ego tossed around by time to seeing yourself as potentially part of a much larger, eternal, purposeful tapestry. The question itself sparks that shift. It's almost universal to the rational mind, confronting reality.
A profound place to leave it. It really does anchor you while simultaneously challenging your deepest assumptions about existence. We definitely encourage you, our listeners, to keep exploring this fascinating, essential boundary between the finite and the infinite.